Chapter 2, The Home Front, Monday, 5:40 p.m. Alex Douglas frowned at the darkened computer. He toggled the joystick, stabbed the keyboard, hit the red firing button. Nothing. Dead. Then he saw her in the reflection on the screen. Like a white-robed ghost, arms folded. He groaned, gritting his teeth. Alex's mother loomed over him in her white nurse's uniform. She had just come off a 12-hour shift at Mercy Hospital in Jersey City and was in no mood for guff. She narrowed her eyes and pointed at him with the flopping end of the computer plug. She had just yanked out of the wall, totally crashing and screaming Eagles 4 flight sim game in the middle of what could have been the man's most heroic victory ever. He was about to save the world, but he hadn't had time to hit send. God, Mom, how could you be so stupid? He didn't really say that out loud, but he thought it so loudly he was afraid she might hear it echoing in his brain. If he had said it out loud, he probably wouldn't have lived to see his 11th birthday. Only 7 hours and 51 minutes away, he calculated. Alex had discovered that over the years, he wasn't so great at hiding his thoughts from his parents. Lately, he had been practicing in front of the mirror, thinking of the stuff that made him real mad, while trying to keep his feelings from showing on his face. He was pretty sure he was getting better at it. "Don't give me that look," said his mother. "I know what you're thinking." Guess there was still room for improvement, he thought. "What are the rules?" she asked. Alex spotted movement out of the corner of his eye. "Rule number 1, Nunu has to stay on her side of the flight line." Alex pointed at his 6-year-old sister, who was about to cross a black and yellow stripe that Alex had taped on the floor, dividing the room in two. Nunu, her real name was Nolabeth, but everyone called her Nunu, sighed and flopped down on her bed. Everything on her side of the room was pink. Pink bed, pink princess sheet, pink dolls, piled up on pink pillows. Even the walls of her side were painted the shiny color of chewed bubblegum. Alex had one word for it. Gross. The other side of the room, Alex's side, was made of awesome. He had turned into a shrine of 2 things he loved, airplanes and dogs. 4 airplane models dangled from the ceiling on string. A huge Boeing 747, a World War II-era P-51 Mustang, nose painted to look like a shark's mouth, and a Sopwith Camel biplane and an F-16 fighting Falcon, exactly like the one he was flying before his mom pulled the plug on his computer. He had even stenciled his own call sign, A-Dog, onto the nose of the fighter jet. Posters of airplanes covered the walls. Over his bed, tacked on the ceiling, was a huge fold-out of a 747 cockpit. Staring up at night after night before bed, he memorized location and function of every single dial and switch. On his dresser sat a framed photograph of the Navy's Blue Angels elite flying squadron in close formation, signed by every pilot on the team. He had gotten that for his birthday 2 years ago, when his dad took him to see an air show upstate New York. They had gotten up super early, way before dawn, and even though he was dog-tired because he hardly slept the night before, he was wide awake by the time they pulled into the airbase and parked in the field near the viewing stand. It was so early, bleachers were still what would do. Not that it mattered, because he never once sat down. He remembered every detail and maneuver like it had happened yesterday. Even his dad seemed impressed. Alex's dad drove a commuter train for the living, which meant he was in charge of steering 500,000 pounds of steel and aluminum through a tunnel underneath the Hudson River at 70 miles per hour. So it took a lot to impress him. In the air show finals, the Angels flew low and fast right over the crowd. 4 fighter jets in a tight diamond pattern, so close overhead that Alex felt like he could reach out and touch the wings. He could still remember how the roar of the engines made his insides rumble. Right after the Angels flew past, Alex's dad reached down and squeezed his shoulder. Alex looked up, his fingers still in his ears to dull the roar of the jets. His dad grinned at him and mouthed one word. Wow. He had always thought of that day, his greatest birthday ever. Until this one. This was going to leave that year in the... Alex, answer the question. Alex rose. He'd totally forgotten what they were talking about. I asked you about the rules, she reminded him. You didn't say which rules. Careful, young man. He hated when she called him young man. In fact, it had the whole world. The fact that it had the word man in it didn't really help because it was only word that mattered was young. Man was like one of those silent letters you just learned about in English. Like the S in island or the G in phlegm. He thought about it as a new part of speech. The silent man. His mom and dad were always telling him that he needed to grow up. It's one of the things he definitely agreed about with them. Because if growing up meant getting better at hiding your feelings so you don't get in trouble, then he was all for it. He wondered if he'd be better at it once he turned 11. All he knew that was growing up meant he could get a dog. And that's why this was going to be his official, new, greatest birthday ever. He had been asking for a dog since forever. Last year, his parents said that they'd think about getting him a dog when he was old enough to take care of one. It was all encouragement he needed. 6 months ago, he stared at his campaign, dropping hints, a steady stream of little reminders that built and built into a tidal wave. Post-its with the numbers of days to his birthday would mysteriously appear on his parents' bathroom mirror. Pictures of dogs would turn up inside the favorite magazines or stuck in the refrigerator door. At 2 months out, he turned it up another notch, beginning almost every sentence with, "When I get a dog." If you get a dog, his parents would correct him, but he was relentless. Because before long, they stopped saying if, and they would just trade exasperated looks. That's how he knew it was finally happening. He had worn them down. He was definitely getting a dog for his birthday, which explained the other half of Alex's half of the room. The other half of Alex's half of the room was plastered with pictures of dogs. Everywhere there was an airplane, there was a dog. To Alex, airplanes and dogs just went together like peanut butter and bologna, which happened to be his favorite sandwich. When he wasn't playing a flight sim or memorizing the cockpit dials or throwing dirty socks at Nunu to keep her from the other side of the flight line, he'd stare at the pictures and daydream about how cool it would be if a dog could fly a plane. Alex Douglas, pay attention! First and last name. He was in the danger zone. What are the rules? And this time I expect a straight answer. Alex sighed. No games until my homework is done. And my chores. And are they done? Define done. Dead silence. Alex withered slightly, and then rebounded. He could usually get out of a tough spot by making his mother laugh. How do you know that time travel is impossible? And I just didn't time warp 2 hours into the past, do my chores, and then time warp right back into my chair. Call it a maternal instinct. But he thought he'd cracked a tiny smile. Across the room, Nunu giggled. Despite the dirty socks, she always laughed at her brother's dumb jokes. If it weren't for Nunu's lolly doll, Alex might have been willing to overlook her other flaws, like her pink sheets or her very existence on the planet, especially the part of the planet that included the other half of his bedroom. But she never went anywhere without Lolly, and by the time you counted the bus ride to school every day, the bus ride home, and anywhere they went on their parents, Alex felt like he never went anywhere without Nunu. Which meant that he never went anywhere without Lolly, and her missing eye, and that 1 year Nunu had chewed on until it was practically gone, worn down into a hard, spit-dark, threadbare numb. Lolly had ruined his life. It happened the first week of school. Nunu was halfway onto the bus when she whirled around and pointed. She had left Lolly on the bench. Alex sighed, but sprinted back off the bus and snatched up the soggy-eared doll. Just as Jordan McCreevy sauntered up. Jordan the jerk. That's what Alex and his friends called him behind his back. If they ever called that to him in his face, he probably wouldn't have a face anymore. Jordan snatched the pink doll out of Alex's hand. Alex made a half-hearted attempt to take it back, but Jordan headed way up high out of his reach. As he stared down at Alex, the left side of his mouth began to curl. Alex flinched as Jordan laughed in his face. His breath stank like armpit and Cheetos. Then Jordan slapped the doll onto Alex's hand like a dunce cap. Here's your baby. And that's when Alex knew that Jordan McCreevy was going to make his life a living hell. Alex, his mom said again. What? I'm listening. Really? Okay. I'll make you a deal. Answer one easy question for me, and you can have 10 more minutes on the computer. Fair? Alex's eyebrows shut up. He liked where this was going. He was constantly trying to make deals with his parents to get out doing stuff right away. Please, just 5 more minutes, and then I promise I'll do the dishes, he'd beg. And then he'd forget the time limit. 5 minutes would become 20, and half the time of the dishes would get done while he was away. But this was a new twist. Now his mom was offering him a deal. Sweet. Fire away, he said with confidence. Here's the question. What were we just talking about? Alex opened his mouth, then shut it. He frowned, and he saw where he messed up. He was a daydreamer. She knew it. His mind was a tendency to wander, like this one time last week in Mrs. Foster's room. They were supposed to be doing class participation, but then he saw this dog run outside by the window. That's what I thought. His mom shook her head and started for the kitchen. Now, leave that computer off, take out your books, and do your homework. She was halfway across the living room when Alex bolted into the hall. Homework! He shouted triumphantly. His mom laughed, but she wasn't buying it. Please, Mom, 10 more minutes? No. 5 and I'll do the dishes. No more deal breaking. But it's my birthday tomorrow, he wheedled. I know, and that's why you have to get your homework done today. Alex tried a different tact. You know what, Mom? You're absolutely right. That is so smart. I really should get ahead on my homework. His mother cocked an eyebrow, wondering where this was going. That way I'll have more time to play with the dog you're getting me for my birthday. Alex, you promised. You promised I could get a dog for my birthday. I know, sweetie, if you got serious about your schoolwork and if your grades improved, but you got a C on your last math test. Yeah, but look on the bright side. At least you know I didn't cheat. He grinned, hoping she could get a smile out of her. She shook her head. We talked about this. A dog is a big responsibility, and you have to show us that you can handle that kind of responsibility. Responsibility? Are you kidding me? I can land an FA-18 Hornet on an aircraft carrier in the rolling sea. You can trust me with $30 million airplane. I think you can trust me with a dog. His mom didn't laugh. Mom, you promised. What do I have to do? Your homework. She turned around and headed into the kitchen. Alex stared at her, a sick feeling growing in his stomach. Maybe he wasn't getting a dog after all. When his mom called him to dinner, Alex headed downstairs. He finished his homework, which was pretty easy, some long division and fractions and a chapter on the American Revolution with only 4 study questions. But even though nothing put him in a good mood faster than easy homework, he couldn't shake the feeling that His plan for the greatest birthday ever was falling apart like a game of bad Jenga. He drifted off into the living room, scuffing his feet along the carpet, headed for the worn Belka next to the old gray sofa in front of the TV. As usual, he took the shortcut, stepping the arm to the chair of the lounge chair and then vaulting over the back of the sofa. He landed. He froze. He turned back, staring at the worn lounge chair. His dad's chair. And it came to him, a way to get around his mom. Talk to Dad. Nunu and their mom was already sitting when Alex came in. He grabbed the back of his chair and dragged it out from underneath the table, like he had been told 1,000 times not to, but never remembered. The legs made a loud honking noise, and they scraped against the linoleum. His mother shot him a look. Uh-oh, he thought. Don't jinx it.
I didn't catch that.
He stopped the chair halfway out and then tried to squeeze noisily into his seat. The table shook. Milk splashed out of Nunu's glass. Rats! Sorry, he mumbled. His mom dabbed up the milk. Drink your milk, Nunu, she said to Nunu. Dinner was hot dogs, macaroni and cheese, and carrots. His mom had made his favorite meal, except for the carrots. This was a good sign. Where's Daddy? Nunu asked. They gave him an extra run, so he'll be home a little late. Another good sign. It gave him more time to plan his charm offensive. Alex could feel his mom watching him. He was still sort of mad at her and didn't want to look her in the eye, but he knew he would straighten up and fly right if he had any chance of saving the greatest birthday ever. He took a huge bite of a hot dog and turned to his mom with a big smile. Mom. Don't talk with your mouth full, she said. But then she smiled. Alex could feel the tide turning in its favor. An hour later, Alex was sitting up in bed. English book propped up in his lap, and a brand new plan taking shape in his brain. Plan A was to talk to his dad, but Alex figured you could never be so safe, so he came back to his room. He made a backup deal with the universe. If I stop thinking about dogs and do my homework, then I'll be rewarded with a dog. Alex was always making deals with the universe. In the morning, if I actually brush my teeth instead of just waving the brush around like a lightsaber, then Mom will have pancakes on the table. In 5th period, if I don't look in the clock for 5 minutes, class will end early. Once in a while, it worked. If I sit perfectly still, Jordan won't see me. And that was all Alex needed to make him believe. Even with Plan A in place, Plan B as a backup, he could shake the feeling that this wasn't going to end well. Deep down, he knew what was really bugging him, and why he was in such an up-and-down mood. His mother was right. It was his own fault that he wasn't getting a dog. They'd make a straightforward deal, just like the one he made with the universe. Improve your grades, and you can have a dog. But he dropped the ball, and now nobody to blame but himself. Which made it even worse, like when you stub your toe and want to scream and yell at someone, but you can't because that someone is you. So here he was, on the eve of his birthday, trying not to think about dogs. He'd been staring at the same page for 5 minutes, before he realized the words were just a blur and his mind had just wandered back to dogs. He shook his head and tried to focus. But the harder he tried, the more he thought about dogs. It was impossible not to think about dogs. It was driving him crazy. Daddy! Nunu's happy voice penetrated the thin walls. Come here, monkey, boomed his father. Alex sat up straight with his English book and forced the studious look on his face. They'd seen him change. They'd see he deserved a dog after all. They'd see right through him in a second. Who was he kidding? It was too little, too late. His mom came crashing down again as he shoved the book aside and turned off the light and rolled his face onto the wall, feeling sorry for himself. Maybe they'd feel sorry for him too. Lying in the darkness, his back to the room, he pricked his ears up as the door opened with a click. A sliver of light spilled into the room from the hallway. Shh, looks like he's asleep, his father's voice said. No, he's not. He's faking it, said Nunu, riding on his father's shoulders. Alex clamped his eyes shut. He didn't need to see to know what was going on. It was the same routine every night. Pink sheets rustled. His father lowered Nunu into her bed. See, no, dear Daddy. Alex groaned and rolled over, pulling a pillow over his head. I hate that stupid song, came his muffled voice. He sure is a grumpy Gus, said his father. Grumpy Alex, Nunu replied. Their father stroked Nunu's hair and began to sing. Alex tried to drown them out, but either the pillow wasn't thick enough or he knew the routine too well. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear! He knew it was coming, but Alex winced as Nunu sang out his favorite line, just like she did every single solitary stupid night. As usual, she messed up the words. Most of the time, he didn't even notice anymore. But now it bugged him. Why does she get to mess up every night, and I don't? Even as though he thought it, he knew it wasn't the same thing, but it was the best he could do on short notice. How much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Nunu snuggled down on her comforter. Alex heard her breathing slow as her dad stroked her hair, and she gradually drifted off into sleep. The bed creaked as his dad sat down beside him. For a long time, his father said nothing. Peering through the crack under his pillow, Alex could see bits and pieces of his father. The heel of his left shoe, worn down so far that it curved underneath light from the hallway, reflecting onto a shiny spot in his pants knee, which creased the fabric, just seeming to disappear. 2 loose threads standing straight off the cuff of his white shirt. Alex felt like his father's hand land gently on his shoulder. Tower to A-Dog. Come in, A-Dog. A-Dog maintained radio silence. Your mom told me you went round and round. Everything okay at school? Who cares about school? Under the pillow, Alex rolled his eyes. School's important. It's not school. School's fine. Is it about the dog? Alex felt a flicker of hope. His father knew how much it meant to him. He held his breath and waited, afraid to say anything that might wreck his chances. His dad gently tugged the pillow down. Why do you want a dog so badly? 1,000 answers popped up into Alex's head. He shrugged. You had a dog when you were growing up. His dad smiled. Good thought, Alex. Yeah, Rufus. What kind was he? More like, what kind was he not? Not much to look at, but he was a great dog. I bet. He used to sit down in front of the front window every day with a stick in his mouth and waited for me to come home with the school playing fetch. Wow. He smiled together. How old were you when you got him? Alex asked. His dad didn't look him in the eye. Old enough to take care of him. Alex collapsed and sighed. I can take care of a dog. Your dog has to be able to count on you. I know. Taking care of a dog is a big responsibility. Alex felt a surge of panic. It was all slipping away. I am responsible. I'm going to be 11, way into double digits. It's not just about age, Alex. It's about acting more grown up. Alex shot straight up. I am acting like a grown up. Then he flopped down and yanked the pillow back over his head. His dad tried to pat him on the shoulder, but Alex jerked away, rolling onto his face to the wall. His dad exhaled heavily, then rubbed his eyes and stood. If you loved me, you'd get me a dog, said Alex. His father paused at the door, his hand resting on the handle. I do love you, Alex. His dad waited. The silence seemed to stretch on endlessly. I hate you, came a quiet reply from the bed. Then Alex heard the door click shut.